was that I was going to have to be very proactive if I wanted to change my life, that I had to make changes. I couldn't just sit home and things would happen. Two, which I discovered somewhat later, is that it shouldn't take a devastating loss for you to follow your passions. You know, there was a lot when I was married I didn't do. My husband and I, we loved each other dearly, but he made most of the decisions and I sort of organized myself around him. So there were things I wanted to do that I really never pursued or thought I would. And third, you know, as an adult, if you're lonely, and I think a lot of people are lonely and it's hard to make friends as an adult, and I had to do that as a new widow, is that it's super helpful to join groups, to find out your passion, what you love to do, and do it in a group, and then hopefully to feel seen, because I'll throw in a fourth. Just being with people doesn't necessarily fix your loneliness. You have to feel like you're being seen and heard, and that's what fixes some of the loneliness.
Get ready to reclaim your life, discover inspiring stories, practical tools, and the path to true happiness. This is Reclaim Your Life with Irina. Let's begin the journey. Hello and welcome to Reclaim Your Life with Irina. Today's guest is Debbie Weiss. She is the author of Available as Is, a midlife widow's search for love. Her book is about creating new life, including finding a voice after losing her husband and high school sweetheart of 32 years. She is also a former lawyer. She is joining us from Northern California. Welcome, Debbie. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me on your show, Irina.
Thank you. So, how are you today?
Good, thanks.
So please share your story with us.
Okay. Well, I grew up in what used to be a small town in Northern California, and my mom died when I was 10. I was raised by a single dad. I lived a pretty cautious life because I knew that, you know, those we love can vanish at any time. I found out pretty early. I married my high school sweetheart and became a lawyer at 25. I retired at 40. My husband was a software developer. But in 2009, he was diagnosed with metastasized male breast cancer, and he passed in April of 2013. And from there, I turned to writing.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Who did you want to be when you were growing up?
What did I want to be? I actually think I wanted to be a writer.
Awesome. So you fulfilled your dream.
Yeah, I always kind of dreamed of being a writer. Maybe writing more than one book, which I've done so far, but I always loved writing.
Mm-hmm. Nice, nice. What makes you laugh?
My partner Randall makes me laugh. He's pretty funny. Dry humor makes me laugh. And silly cat videos.
Awesome, awesome. What sets your soul on fire?
Reading really good books.
What's your favorite book?
It changes a lot. Right now I'm reading a book called Molokai. It's a fictional book, believe it or not, about the leper colony in Molokai at the turn of the century, and it is so good. So maybe I'm kind of fickle. Maybe I love the book best that I'm reading now.
That's a good way, by being really into it and being present. That's amazing. If you could choose to do anything for a day, what would it be?
Anything. I wouldn't mind going back to Paris for one day. I think that would be neat. We'd like to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower and see the Rodin Sculpture Garden and see the Impressionists at d'Orsay. I wouldn't feel like traveling right now, but I would like to do that for a day.
That's amazing. Travel always makes me happy, and I miss traveling, and Paris is beautiful any time of year.
Yeah, exactly.
What is your proudest accomplishment?
That's easy. I earned an MFA, a Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing in 2020, and I was 56.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. goes to say it's never too late to, go study or learn something or achieve something. We only set limitations for ourselves.
Yeah, my book wasn't doing really what I wanted it to. I wanted to be a better writer, and I figured being immersed in an environment with other writers would be good, and also being with different people with different perspectives would be good for me. So I went back and did that as part of writing my book.
That's amazing. I love it. Did you have a hero growing up?
I did, and I still do. That's my father.
Mm-hmm.
When my mom died, I was 10, and that was 1973. And at that time, men weren't usually really involved with child raising or taking care of the home.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad's a nuclear physicist.
Mm-hmm.
So he worked at Lawrence Livermore. So he had a pretty intense career, but he had to balance all that and raise a kid and take care of a house. We had a big ranch kind of house back then. And he did it, and he never complained, and he worked very hard to be a good parent and to give me a great upbringing.
What is the best quality that you liked about your dad that you want to emulate?
Possibly his thirst for knowledge. He's very curious. When my mom died and he was pretty impatient of a person, but with kind of impatience runs in the family, he studied Buddhism. Okay. And he looked at different kinds of meditation. Much later, he was doing online kinds of classes in programming into his 80s. He can be happy just reading a book, and he's super well traveled. So I kind of admire that he's not narrow. I mean, he's just kind of interested in everything, except for maybe popular culture.
Okay, that's nice. I love it. How did it help you growing up and now that you're an adult, that to have that trait, to have that role model?
Well, it was really helpful, I think, as a girl to be raised by a dad in some ways, because my high school was really traditional and sports were revered, and it was felt kind of sexist. Girls can't wear shorts, kids partied. It was pretty typical small town school. And my dad raised me to be careful. He was overprotective, but he also raised me to have a lot of self-esteem. And I think that's important. He always raised me, and to think that I could do whatever I wanted to do. He has a PhD, so he used to joke that, I can go to any graduate school I want to go to, but it was assumed that I would go to graduate school.
All right. That's good. And switching gears a little bit, what has inspired you to write the book, to become the author that you are?
Well, that was the loss of my husband. When he passed, I was looking for books that maybe I related to as a widow, and I really didn't find much. I was reading Kubler-Ross on grief and grieving, but a lot of the widow books, they felt a little too upbeat for me. A lot of the stuff really wasn't going into the kind of anger I was feeling and kind of almost the nihilism of it. I mean, this was the second time in my life. I was 50 when I lost George, that I lost the love of, the person I loved the most. That didn't seem right. I figured I'd already paid. I lost my mom. That should be enough, And I really wasn't finding books that were talking about how I felt. And I found everything very surreal, especially when I started dating. And I wasn't finding any books that captured kind of the humor of that, a little bit of going out when you're at midlife and trying to find this kind of big love or this kind of possibility, when that's just a lot of things seem to be playing out against it.
And what were the 3 biggest lessons you learned as a result of your wake-up call and how you reclaimed your life?
The biggest things I learned. One was that I was going to have to be very proactive if I wanted to change my life, that I had to make changes. I couldn't just sit home and things would happen. Two, which I discovered somewhat later, is that it shouldn't take a devastating loss for you to follow your passions. There was a lot when I was married I didn't do. My husband and I, we loved each other dearly, but he made most of the decisions and I sort of organized myself around him. So there were things I wanted to do that I really never pursued or thought I would. And third, as an adult, if you're lonely, and I think a lot of people are lonely and it's hard to make friends as an adult, and I had to do that as a new widow, is that it's super helpful to join groups, to find out your passion, what you love to do, and do it in a group, and then hopefully to feel seen, because I'll throw in a fourth. Just being with people doesn't necessarily fix your loneliness. You have to feel like you're being seen and heard, and that's what fixes some of the loneliness.
You're so right. What were some of the things that you repressed or didn't follow that you started after you realized that? Some of your passions that you said you didn't pursue before.
Oh, when I was married. Well, I'm pretty cautious, left to my own devices. I was a bookworm. I still am. I'm happiest on the couch with a book, and I'm a homebody. But my husband had traveled a lot with his parents when he was younger, and he didn't want to travel anymore. He felt the world could be seen pretty effectively through a computer. And I didn't want to not ever travel. I wanted to try traveling. I'm not a great traveler, but at least when he passed, I hadn't even left the United States, and that's not good. My writing, I didn't take very seriously because he didn't think I was a great writer, and I wasn't writing anything. I was just writing little stories. I wasn't trying to put anything together or put anything out there. Mm-hmm. So I didn't take that seriously. Later, I really got into hiking, not so much now, but I loved it. And that wasn't anything he was terribly interested in. And I really couldn't do weekend activities since he worked during the week, Yeah. So, kind of the weekend hikes and the groups and things were something I turned to when he was gone, and my weekends were kind of depressing to me, at least.
Yes, you're so right that oftentimes when we are together with another person, we kind of comply and we don't follow our pursuits. We want to create that safe environment, and we love each other, but we lose ourselves in the process when we don't honor our own wishes or our own things that make us happy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I feel that way. Yeah, we don't. We just, it's wonderful to be with that other person, and that's comforting. And I think it's hard to get out of your comfort zone. I don't know that I would have gotten out of mine necessarily very much, except that I found myself so, alone. So I had to do something.
Mm-hmm. I had a different situation. After my breakup, I discovered things that I didn't know I had, and all the new passions that I always wanted to do. I started trying. One of the greatest things I did was getting a voice coach and learning how to sing.
That's wonderful.
And opening up my voice and getting back into dancing, because my spouse didn't like me dancing with other men. And I did Argentine tango dance. So I got back into that, and it brought more life. Because oftentimes you feel like you are not really living. You're just going through days of...
That's true. Yeah, I'm very conscious of that. Especially now that I'm kind of, done with the book, and it's like, well, what do I want to do now? What's kind of my next passion? But I do want it to be something, I think, I agree that sometimes you put kind of what you do aside. I hadn't realized when I was married how much I love being outdoors, or how much I needed to be out hiking or walking, or that if just things I wanted to do on weekends, I started to do writing retreats and workshops and things that I never would have done because I think it would have taken too much time away.
Mm. Knowing what you know now, what kind of advice would you give your younger self?
Go after your passion sooner. Do what you love. Law school is a really great background for things, and it's very good training. but I would have taken some time off before I went straight through from college. So I would have maybe been more interested in law and picked a more interesting kind of career because I retired at 40, sort of burned out on the whole thing.
Mhm.
And again, also to have pursued my passions while I was still married, to have looked at what I wanted to do and what brought me joy aside from being, a gardener and someone who, worked out and was home every day to have dinner and all.
Mhm, mhm. If you could change anything what would you change about yourself if you could?
I'd probably be braver. I have anxiety, so I
About what?
worry about things. Oh, everything. It's no fun. It's like generalized anxiety. I think I've had it since I was 10 and my mom died. So if I'm driving someplace, and it's like here we have this rain. It's not maybe that terrible, but I worry, oh my gosh, you're driving in the rain. This is bad stuff. Is this neighborhood a safe place to be? When I've traveled, I have traveled by myself with groups, but the airport, it's like, oh my God, the connections, I get so stressed out about everything. I wish I could just kind of go, I'm doing the best I can and I'll see what happens and deal with it then. So
Yeah.
I would like to not have anxiety.
Well, I can help you with that.
Oh,
Here is one tool just to try. Next time you're anxious, think immediately of the next thing you're going to do after that anxious event and focus your attention on that. So, for example, I'm not saying you have that, but if you're afraid of flying, instead of focusing on how nervous you're going to be during the flight, focus your attention on what's going to happen immediately after you arrive. Maybe you're going to have a wonderful meal with a friend, or enjoy this beautiful glass of wine, or this meal, or go on a hike, or see some kind of a performance or a show. And think about that throughout your whole flight. Like imagine as if you're already there. Feel how you were feeling, like thinking, and have it so vividly that it's part of your body. And instead of thinking of the event, think of what you're going to do immediately after the anxious event is
Chris,
finished.
that's a good idea. That's a neat idea. I'll have to try that. I'm going to try that next time I'm anxious about something. I'll picture sort of being there already.
Yeah, like after this is all, because it's not gonna last long time. It's gonna finish. So what happens immediately after that?
Yeah, you're right. That's a good
Focus,
idea.
focus over there. And another thing, sometimes we forget to breathe. Simple as that.
Breathing helps. I do yoga, a lot of yoga, and breathing helps. And I try to remember other times if you're anxious, like if I get in the middle of the night, it's like, just breathe. Everything's okay. That helps.
What is your favorite self-care practice?
Right now it's yoga. I live in a small town and in Northern California on the water, and it didn't have a dedicated yoga studio. I had one, but it closed during the pandemic. And this young couple came in and opened this beautiful new studio with tons of classes, and it's a wonderful community. And I go there, 4 times a week and just do these wonderful classes that are really challenging, and they're good for brain power too.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, that's my passion for self-care.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Because our bodies were designed to move. And I think in the pandemic, we discovered a lot of sitting and a lot of staring in the screens. So it's important to move, whatever favorite type of movement that you like doing. Do you have a specific yoga that you do?
I like vinyasa flow yoga. I like to flow because it feels like dancing. I think that's really fun.
Nice.
And I get really lost in the movements. And for me, it's very soothing because you can't think about anything else while you're doing it. And the teacher actually has a PhD in body movement stuff. I'm not saying this right. So she does all these funny twists and turns and sequences that are designed to challenge us. So it's really fun. And the classes are super well thought out. So I love the fact that you just kind of lose yourself in the flow. Mm-hmm. That feels pretty amazing.
Nice. And how long have you been doing that?
Well, in this town, it's only been open, I don't know, 6 months or something. But I've been doing flow yoga for about 9 years now. I started when George, my husband, passed.
Mhm.
And I wandered into a yoga studio and did a few different things and realized that flow is it.
Is that something you always wanted to do, to try yoga? Or was it
I think
a new discovery
I
after?
did a little bit when George hit was around, but I didn't really look into classes of like, I didn't go regularly and I didn't look into the kinds of classes of what I wanted to do. So I would just it was kind of random. And then I sort of got into this. And, yoga people tend to be really nice. So once I kind of found a style I like, there's usually a group of the same people who come to the classes, and then you get a community and you go and you see them several times a week and they ask how you're doing and what your week's like and all that. That's pretty wonderful.
Yeah, you're so right. And I think it's important when you do something as a community, it's just even more so you don't feel lonely anymore and you trying new things together. So if you suck in the beginning, you all suck in the beginning. And then you
Yeah,
learn along the way.
yeah, we all improve. I mean, we all just do this together. There are some people who are pretty amazing. I can't do like a lot of the arm balances and stuff, but some of the things I like too is just to try to think of it as something fun. One of my favorite instructors always joked, there are no grades in yoga.
Ah, yes.
You know,
I think grading is overrated anyway.
I think so too. I come from being very heavily graded through law school and college and all, and yeah, it's quite, it felt like being graded when I was practicing law, writing a lot of briefs and things. So yeah, it's wonderful not to be graded anymore.
Mhm, mhm. If you could live anywhere, where would it be?
I love where I live now.
All right, awesome. What's the best thing about the place where you are now?
Being on the water.
Mm.
It's on
Are
a
you
bay.
like right by the ocean
I'm
or?
on a bay. It's called the Cartines Straits. It's Benicia, California,
Mhm.
and it's a bay that comes in. It's pretty near Napa, and it's a historic area. Actually, Benicia was the first capital of California.
Mm.
And I like the history, but I really love being by the water. I have what for my house, I can see the water. And when I walk, I live about a mile and a half from downtown, and I can walk downtown by water. And that's just really lovely.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, water I think centers us like because it's close, it's nature and it's flowing. And another thing, what do they say? When people they can stare on water and the fire and for longest period of time, and it's kind of calms you down, calms your nervous system down, and you feel more at ease and connected.
I agree. It's really mesmerizing. When I first moved here, and I have a friend of the same thing, we just both kind of, we sit and we look at the water, and you don't get much done. One thing I love is there's a little beach next to my house that's really close, and I can walk there and just sit. And there is, it's not stunning, but there's sand and there's waves, and I love to just look at the light on the water. Really,
Mhm.
and it's very soothing.
Yeah, yeah. After your loss, how, if you were to describe yourself, how did your life changed?
Right when I lost George, I was pretty much of a mess. He was in denial about having cancer, so he thought he was getting better even as he was dying. And he excluded me from his medical treatment. And I couldn't tell what was going on, and he refused a lot of outside help. So when he was declining, I was doing a lot of his care, and I didn't know if I was doing it right. I was worried I was damaging him. He wasn't sleep. I was sleep deprived because he wasn't sleeping and he needed help during the night with a lot of stuff. So I got angry with him and I even yelled. And when he died, I had a lot of guilt. So I was drinking a lot of Manhattans at night and throwing my glasses at that fireplace and just kind of railing against the fates. So I was pretty unhappy.
Mhm. And afterwards,
Well,
how do you value life now?
oh, it's wonderful. I mean, it's just wonderful, I mean, there's the sun and the walk and there's flowers. There's a lot of really nice foliage and stuff here.
So
And there's
what
spring and
happened for you to start recognizing that? What happened?
it
What
was so
shifted for you?
um part of it, a little bit of it, I think, was just time. Um, part of it was looking at the way my dad had gone on to create a wonderful life for himself after my mom died. I mean, he went on to do all kinds of interesting things and learn things. And he met my stepmother. They've been together many years. She's a really interesting person. She's a doctor and a pioneer. She was one of 7 women at Stanford Medical School in her day. And just walking outside and seeing flowers and all, and realizing I was actually pretty lucky, which sounds odd, but I had my home. My husband had insurance. Like a lot of widows, I wasn't losing my home. I wasn't losing my security. A lot of people, I didn't have any children who were dependent on me. I didn't have to worry about a lot of things. And I realized, it was kind of up to me. There I was on my own with no real problems. And I could either do something with that or not. But I mean, if you look at the world, I was really pretty fortunate.
But I think it's a great realization, because oftentimes we go through life, we don't notice, we live in a fog of external stuff, and we forget to pay attention what's happening. And you realize, and you woke up to the flowers, to the water. It might sound weird and funny and childish, but I think it makes you alive. You feel like you are living when you are present to those things and you experiencing them and finally noticing what it is that's happening and going after your passions and doing the things that you always wanted to try.
It really helped. I joined some groups and they didn't all work. Again, my small town was it wasn't small by then, but it was fairly limited. And I joined a few things that didn't really resonate with me, a car club, Rotary. But I also discovered, like I said, writing and yoga. And, people I saw were mostly pretty nice. In all these groups, people were kind and they were welcoming. So I kind of saw that too and realized, well, again, you can make an effort to talk to people or, again, not.
Yes, it all depends on us. And sometimes we create obstacles in our heads and stories that we tell ourselves that this is how life is. Meanwhile, we can always create a new story.
Yeah, I think
and then live it because we are all writers of our own life. We get to write a story and then we get to live it. All it takes is the belief, and belief sometimes is difficult.
It is difficult.
We gotta touch something before we believe it exists.
Yeah, you're right. And it wasn't something I believed when my husband was getting very ill. I mean, I was thinking, well, how am I going to live now? This isn't working. How are we going to get help? I very sleep deprived. How are we going to do this? But we have choices.
Yeah. Thank you. Is there anything I haven't asked that you would like to share?
I don't think so. I would like to mention my book, available as is, A Midlife Widow's Search for Love, about reinvention at midlife and finding a voice after a 32-year marriage. That's kind of my big project. And I hope it helps people.
Definitely, yes. Yes, it's all about sharing our stories, because we sometimes think we are alone in our thoughts, in our experiences. But the fact that you have shared, I'm sure there are many people who have go through this and they don't talk about it. And it's a great outlet to realize that you're not alone. There are similar situations, and maybe your book, your story could be a page in someone else's survival guide, figuring out life and learning something from examples of others.
Yeah, or at least feeling less alone, because one of the things about being widowed is you feel I felt very alone. But I wasn't. I mean, this widowhood, happens to so many of us, even young widowhood. I was 49 when George died. Mm-hmm. So, I like the idea that my story could help other people, or at least it's actually a funny book, maybe at least help them see a little bit of the humor in some of the situations.
Yeah, funny is good. It's good when we get to laugh at ourselves, that we don't take ourselves too seriously.
I agree.
Because we become adults and we have things to do, bills to pay. We become very serious about life.
We do, you're right. Well, you're a parent, I'm not. So yeah.
So, thank you so much for coming on. If people would like to connect with you, where would they go?
They would go to my website, which is Debbie Weiss Author. That's the best place to find me. And probably the second best is, well, second best is Debbie Weiss Author on Facebook. And I think I'm also Debbie Weiss Author or Debbie Weiss Author yet again on Instagram. You can find me there.
Awesome. And your book is available on your website or Amazon?
You can buy my book on Amazon. There's information about it on my website and also on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon, where it actually has some very good reviews.
Awesome. And we will include everything in episode notes so people can click directly on the link and connect with you. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, and thank you for writing this book and sharing your message. I think it's very, very important. Thank you.
Well, thank you. This was fun.